Hi B-Schoolers, it's Rachel Bowditch here from Ellisbow. As promised, here's a little story or webinar about what happened in my business last year and how we dealt with it and how we got to sort of where we are now, which is a sustainable and growing business. So basically, some of you might have been watching the story since June last year when I woke up one morning thinking that my website had been hacked because there was 91 orders sitting there, and at the time, Ellisbow was a side project for me, so I'd expect, a couple of orders, if that, on a daily basis. I was doing a full-time contract as a management consultant, and I was aiming to, later in the year, really sort of ramp the business up then. So I'd hired a PR firm with the intention of them slowly doing some work for me, and that sort of round the autumn pre-Christmas time I do trunk shows and pop-ups and consumer events and all the rest of it to really sort of push the brand out there. But on the morning of the 10th of June I woke up to find that there'd been international press overnight linking my brand with Kate Middleton, and that apparently Kate Middleton was a fan of our insoles. So I'm in the studio at the moment, lots of insoles around. And it literally went global overnight. So what started a story in the US then ended up getting picked up in Japan and Brazil and France, Italy, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, Canada. Huffington posted a video on us, all sorts of things. And so we basically had the scenario, or I had the scenario because it was just me at the time, of how do I deal with it and how do I actually run with it and how do I run with it and what would we do? So in hindsight, what I want to share with you in this video, and then I'll do a cheat sheet. I can do more in-depth stuff too if you want to go through specific elements of it, of what we did and my learnings. But basically, there were two things that at the end of the day you need to deal with if something like this happens. One is mindset and dealing with the shock, because it is a shock. It's a good shock, but it's a shock that suddenly you're out there and that's it, you're just completely out there. The other thing is the logistics of it all. So what we'll do is we'll go through how I set my business up in the first place, because there's some key things there that gave us the fighting chance of dealing with this, and then further what we actually did once it happened, what I managed to put in place, what I did well, what I would do better, what I could see differently next time. Any noise in the background, we're next to a train line. So that's that. If you hear any gongs, there's a yoga studio next door. That's the gongs. Crying babies sometimes too, if they're having baby classes and stuff. But basically on the 10th of June, the orders were coming in. I had very limited stock at the time, so quite quickly different things went out of stock. Then I put a note out on Facebook and contacted various people I really respected business-wise. And what they did is they gave me the spur to actually let things run. So I put everything in stock, let things run. And basically, at the end of that first day, we had 842 orders. At the end of June, we had just under 3,000 orders come in. And what it basically was, I'm a management consultant by background, I'm a program manager. I like mentally to plan and to prepare. I'm very, very good at deadlines, but I like to plan things. And what I had was a scenario where I knew logically everything I should be doing. I also knew logically how long the lead times were going to be. So I knew that we couldn't take an order today and instantly somehow get all the leather, get everything in place, get it made, get it out the door tomorrow. So what we did is we put lead times in place. We said to people, okay, on the website we put a note to say it is a 2 to 3 week lead time for all orders now. And then we put up to a 4 to 6 week, and at one stage we were up to an 8 week lead time. And that was very important for helping me deal with the shock, because that meant I had breathing space. I knew that gave me time to get everything in and sorted. I knew that was setting expectations with customers that yes, you place an order today, but it might not arrive for a little while. When it was upfront, so if they didn't want to place the order today, because they didn't want to wait that long, they didn't need to place the order. And we had that note on the website, as well as having it on the order confirmation emails that went out to customers. So that gave me breathing room. I was very lucky that I had friends that would step in and give support who were really good, because let's be honest, there are some friends that might step in and you go, thanks for the offer, but actually you're not being very helpful. My man was very, very supportive and would, do what he could. God love him. Do what he could to keep things going on. And to be honest, I ran on adrenaline. So from mid-June until probably about late September, I ran on adrenaline and really quite little sleep. And whilst it's not something you want to do in the long term, in these types of scenarios, you just go with it. It's a short-term thing. As long as you get yourself before you burn out on it, it's a short-term thing. But look, a couple of things that are really helpful if you're going to have this scenario. One is identify now the people who will be your supporters. So the people you can turn to who you know that will give you really sound, honest advice, who you will respect. When they tell you, you can do this, we know you've got it in you, we know you've got the strength to do it, we know you've got the skills put in place, and these, I'll help you with this, or I'll sit down with this. Identify those people, because they are your go-to people that you need in scenarios like this, and that they are the ones that will help bring out the best in you and help make things happen. Another thing that's really good to do, which I didn't do as much as I should have, is to think of it as one removed. So if this happened, so if this scenario had happened to one of my best mates, I would have been so happy for them. It's the thing you dream of overnight success. It's the thing you dream of, things just taking off like that, let alone when it's press saying that, a duchess, royalty loves your products and you're going global and Elle Italy picks up the article or whatever. So thinking one removed helps you deal with it, because when it's yourself, you kind of do go into shock and it's like, can I deal with this? Can I make this happen? So in retrospect, if I thought more one removed, if this was someone else's business, what would I be doing? If it's someone else's business, what would I be advising? What realistically are the next steps? I'm very good at doing. I'm very good at making things happen, but I let myself be in the stress too much. Whereas if I'd stepped one removed, also, when you deal with such a scenario, you will have a lot of positive comments from people, but you will most likely fall behind on some of your customer service, some of your deliveries, and it's very easy to take all those comments personally. So thinking one remove really helps there. So look, there are a couple of sort of mindset things and practical things to do in order to deal with this. And basically also just see it as a big adventure. It's like, I just thought, how lucky am I that this has happened? At the end of the day, regardless of how it continued, how lucky was I to have this experience, that this happened? Just phenomenal. So that's the first. So then let's look at sort of how we actually dealt with making it happen. So like I said, when it all kicked off, it was me part-time. I was doing a full-time consulting gig. And on top of that, me and my man were going on holiday the next week. We hadn't had a holiday for a while. We were really looking forward to it. And we ended up deciding we'd still go. It ended up being a working holiday for me, mostly. I'd normally read about 3 books a week if I was on a long-haul holiday. We're in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean. I started reading a book on the last day I was there, 10 pages, then decided I really didn't like the book, went for a swim. So yeah, so it wasn't the ideal logistics time. And on top of that too, with leather that we get from Italy, all this was kicking off in June. Now, in June we had the first press hit. We got, like I said, 3,000 orders in June. And Italy and Spain shut down, our suppliers shut down for August, which basically meant that if we didn't get the orders in at the start of July, we weren't going to get any more leather until the end of September, because it's a 3 to 4 week lead time, because they will prepare all the leather and colour it all to order. So I was in the scenario at the start of July going, shoot, I need to place orders. I have to get the crystal ball out. There are still orders coming in and come down from the peak. There's still orders coming in. But I couldn't have foreseen that in the middle of July we would have got another press hit, but a bigger one, and that where we took 3,000 orders in June, we took 7,000 orders in July. I think overall in that period, those 2 months, it was about 20,000 pairs of insoles that we had orders for. So I had no idea. So I need to sort of go with a bit of faith and sort of place bigger orders. So, but look, what I did at the start in terms of setting up the company, from the word go, I wanted this to be a proper business. It was starting, some might say, as a hobby because it was small, it was on the side, but it was a slow start because I was sounding out the market, doing work, investigating customers, making sure I had strong supply networks, all the rest of it. So from the start, I set it up seriously. So I set up as a limited company with VAT registration, which is sales tax registration, as you call it in some countries. That was important for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it means that I was then treated seriously as a business, because I was a business. It was a separate legal entity, separate to a person, its own credit rating, its own everything. And that allowed me to sit at the table and do business deals. And it was especially important because dealing with the suppliers I deal with in Italy, for example, they would not be able to deal with me if I was not tax registered. Because of the tax regimes in Italy, it's very, very strict. So in order to deal with some of my suppliers on a business level, that meant that I need to be registered. If I didn't do that, I would need to go through distributors of their products, which would have longer lead times and higher costs for me. So that's how we set up at the start there. I also registered my trademark early on. And this helped with when things kicked off because basically I had my trademark registered in the UK, which is deemed to be my home registration. So the way trademarks work is that there's this reciprocal agreement across many countries called the Madrid Protocol. So once you've got your trademark registered in your home country, then it is easier for you to register in other countries because you say, look, I've already got this registration. I want to tag these countries onto it. Yeah? Or for a reference point, you can see that I was first registered on this date in this country. So it can give you slightly priority status on it. So with all the orders kicking off, we ended up shipping to over 70 countries, but quite early on it was clear that the US was going to be a big market for us. So I registered my trademark in the US. Now normally I'd do that myself, but because I was running on so little sleep and adrenaline for that period, I got a lawyer friend in New York to do it for me. But in principle, I've then gone on and I've registered my EU trademarks and other ones. It's completely fine to do yourself so long as you're good at filling in forms and can read instructions. I just advise that if you're looking at countries like China, where there's some other implications, even though they are linked, or lots of countries in that region are linked up with the Madrid Protocol, there are some implications there to how they work, so I would recommend using a lawyer for those ones. So look, that was that initial setup. From an email perspective, from the word go, I had an outward-facing email, hello@ellisbow.com, and internally for business relations, dealing with suppliers, I use rachel@familybow.com, which is actually the business name. So that was kept separate. For the website, we use Shopify. The reason we use Shopify is one, it's very, very good with dealing with physical products and the setup they have. It's very easy to use, lovely formats. It also meant that when the rush came, there was no issues because even if we're having multiple orders coming in a second, that's nothing for them and their servers and the structure what they're used to. It also meant that if I needed a little bit of extra support, not the type of things you really want to get a developer involved with, but I've put my logo into this email format and it's not showing up right, or the shipping isn't working properly, and whatever, that I could contact them and get immediate help 24 hours a day, which was great. So that worked very well there. From just other tiny IT stuff is I had 2 computers, one PC and one Mac, and a couple of printers, which meant there was always the backup, and that if I was testing things, I could see what it looked like on another platform. And I'd moved the business out of my home about a year beforehand. The reason why wasn't that it had grown hugely at that point. I could have still kept it at home in theory, but my boyfriend moved in. And it was the business or the boyfriend, sort of, 2 people, grown adults, 2 lots of stuff, plus a business, didn't really go in a 1-bed flat in London. So I moved out from home. No, I stayed. The business moved out. And I moved into a shared studio space in East London, which ended up being great for numerous reasons. Firstly, it got a separate address for the business, so in terms of public records, Company's House and things like that over here, that address was there. Now, you could get a PO box. There are some things legally you're not allowed to send to a PO box. So this gave me a business address separately. Secondly, it put me around all sorts of people doing all sorts of creative things. So that was fantastic just for general motivation and seeing things going on. And when it all kicked off, it meant that, you know, I had this like rallying force around me of people going, you can do this fantastic. I know so-and-so. Could this person help you? Or I've got a bit of knowledge of this. How about you try this process instead? That might be a bit quicker or a bit better or whatever. So that was really good. The other thing to mention too with sort of IT just quickly is backups. Shopify, I've got all the backups and stuff, and I can do extra backups there. But do make sure you've got backups. On the finance side of things, payment providers. I know lots of people just have PayPal on their website. And I'd strongly recommend that if you're building a business properly, you want to grow and scale a business, don't just use PayPal. You should always have more than one payment provider. And the reason is with PayPal, whilst they are great and customers really like them, PayPal are not registered as a bank. They are registered as a payment provider. So this means they can hold on to your money. They don't need to give you reasons for it. They can suspend your account. They can do all sorts of different bits like that. But also, they've got no obligation to protect your money in the event that there are issues at PayPal. If, however, you use a payment provider that is registered as a bank, then they are under obligations in the EU, at least, to protect the first section of your money. So there's protection for £85,000 over here. So if it was that for whatever reason the payment provider went bust, that first bit of money would be protected. Also, if it's a bank, they can't just close your account, hold on to your money for whatever reason they want. They can only do it if it is that there is money laundering and there is actually a criminal case against you. So look, we've got two payment providers, and I would always recommend that. You always just want to back up just in case, yeah? And particularly with something like finance. The other thing is that we have, I now like saying we, it used to just be me, we have most of our materials come from abroad for our products. So it means that whilst we're based in London and our business currency is sterling, so it's GBP, sterling pound, most of our materials are priced in euros. So we work with World First, who's a foreign currency provider, and what it means is that I can get very good rates for when I'm buying those overseas materials. It also meant that when things kicked off last year and I could see this volume of money was coming in and that I would need to go and buy all these supplies, that I contacted World First and I said, look, I'm having all these supplies coming in. I want to book a currency rate. Yeah, so I knew exactly what I was going to be paying for them. And the reason I was doing that at the time is because the pound was very strong against the euro. And it could have gone stronger, and if it did, lovely. But I was able to lock in rates, 1.36 euro to the pound, which was fantastic. So I basically bought these currency contracts, 20, 40,000 pounds worth of euros that I didn't need to pay down for at the time. But I said, look, I think I'm going to get X amount of money coming in this month, X amount next month. But please set the rate for now so I know what I'm doing. So if you want to talk about any of that stuff, completely fine too, because it was a real help for us. And since the pound has weakened this year, I've been sort of 15% better off on my exchange rates because of what we did there. So look, there's some of the things that we set up in terms of logistics when it happened. Now, we had sort of the suppliers, space and people, because I've already said IT wasn't an issue for us. That all went fine. Now, suppliers, because I knew that I wanted to make this a long-term good business, I only worked with suppliers who could deliver in volume, yeah? And I made sure I went with really credible suppliers, really well respected in the industry. I got referrals to them, which particularly when dealing with Southern Europe is really helpful if you get referrals, because you walk in there as a small business going, look, I'm only looking to buy 1,000 or 2,000 euros worth of stuff now, but I've got these longer term ambitions, and so who referred me to you currently spends X amount or advises on these businesses and stuff like that. And so it meant I got treated very well, but I did push and really let people know my vision and my dream and where I was heading. And that was important because when it came time when this happened and everything kicked off, people were excited. I had suppliers like screaming with joy down the phone to me, go, oh my God, I can't believe this is fantastic. So happy for you. We'll do whatever we can. We'll try and get stuff there quickly. Bearing in mind my supplies have a 3 to 4 week lead time. So that was great. The other thing to bear in mind with supplies and what I set up is that I looked at where my weak spot was, and my weak spot in my supplies, that one product that I could have quality issues that I'd be really exposed on if it did, was the leather. Because with the best will in the world, particularly when you're smaller orders, a tannery might give you one batch that's brilliant, and then the next batch, they've forgotten exactly how you want it, or they think they can fudge something off on you and you won't notice because you're small and, you mustn't know things. So I had 2 tanneries in place, and when the surge of orders came in, I placed orders with both. And I let each of them know that I had another tannery I was working with as well, and I let each of them know the volume of orders I'd had to come in, and that this was just the start of things, and that we'd gone global, and we had interest from all these different parties, even though we didn't quite have it yet. But I let them know that, so they knew there was some competition there. And because I'd shared the vision, the excitement with my suppliers, they actually did their best to deliver. They pulled things out of stockroom, they part shipped orders, they got as much as they could out before they went on their August holidays, and then got things into production as quickly as they could when they came back. I went for our padding from ordering sort of a few boxes at the time to last October I had 3 pallets worth come in that were the size of me. And the padding doesn't take up much space, so that's a heck of a lot of padding that we had coming. So look, that's the supplies. Let them know what your vision is. Let them know that you're in it for the long run. Use referrals and points of reference to gain credibility with them. Learn the language. Make sure you know what you're talking about. I learned how to test and stretch leather. So I could look at it and they go, oh, she knows what she's talking about. We can't just give her a bit that looks nice and she'll think it's great, because she'll actually stretch it and manipulate it and she'll figure it out. So yeah, and spend time developing those supplier relationships, because if you're a physical product business, without those, you don't have a decent product, and you are as weak as your weakest link in it. If we have bad quality leather and shipped out bad quality insoles to lots of people, that's us done. Yeah, your reputation is good as the last thing that people experience with you. Okay, in terms of space, I had a desk in a shared studio space. What we did is we gradually took over more space in that space. People let us use their desks when they weren't around, which was really, really helpful. And then last September we moved to our own studio, which is here. So we have our own front door and our own fridge and sink and everything, and it's all beautiful. So that's how we manage space-wise. So just scramble for space if you have something like this happen. In terms of people, look, I was still doing the contract, and I was doing it till mid-July after the second surge of press came in, because when it first happened, I didn't know if it was going to continue, so why would I give up a very well-paid consultancy contract for what might have just been a blip? In all honesty, could have just been a blip. So I sent a notice out to friends and family saying, look, is there anyone that can help? These are these skills I'm looking for. I need people for making, for dispatch, for customer service. I put a newsletter out through the studios to everyone there, and then I advertised on university websites, particularly because it was coming up to summer, graduates and, just students generally would be available. Managed to get a team together, maximum of 10 people at one stage. Pros of it was really quickly mobilised. Cons of it was we had some people at times that weren't quite the best fit, There was one person who was great but annoyed people, so I was really happy when he wanted to go off and do other stuff. But look, the key things are there. Get people in as quickly as you can. Train people but on simple steps to start with. So I train people on someone to do one step of a process and someone else to do another step of a process, and got them really good at that, and then got them sort of making it across the board and doing everything. And so sort of gradually built it up that way. Customer service, I had someone that would just answer all the emails. We did template emails so she could use them over again, which was great. And then if we had someone else come and pick it up, they'd do it as well. We'd have someone every day on dispatch full time. We're still going to the post office, but once we had a certain volume, then we could get a franking machine and daily collections from the post and whatever. So that was great. Like I said, what did badly is that we had some people that weren't quite the right fit. The other thing too is because it was such an unusual scenario, we couldn't really plan for it. So, I never knew if one day to the next if there was going to be another hit, or, when Our Italy published an article, they keep on resurfacing it on their website. So the Italian market die right down, and then all of a sudden the next day you'd have, 150 orders from Italy type thing. So we couldn't plan. So our customer service wasn't as good as it could have been. And in retrospect, if this happened again, I'd over ramp up customer service. Because even though we told people, we had a little out of office autoresponder to say, look, if it's urgent, send us another email, urgent the time, we'll look at it immediately. Otherwise, please give us 48 hours to respond. So it meant any bridal orders, any real issues, any of those annoying customers would send another email with urgent, so we get them usually before they hit social media. Because, you are exposed. All of a sudden you've got all these orders, you're exposed. So there's some things that I do differently there. But look, overall, we pulled it off. Now Alice Bow is a sustainable business. We've got very solid monthly turnover. We're now developing a wholesale business where, I'm waiting for news. I know there's some news coming through on the 14th of November about sort of another big retailer will probably be taking us on. So look, I hope that's been helpful. Happy to answer any questions. Key thing is, if it happens, just run with it. It won't be graceful. It won't be elegant. You'll be like the swan where, you might look slightly calm to other people. Underneath you are shitting yourself as to whether or not you can actually do this. And you can. But just, take some of the things I've let you know here, and you'll have an even better chance than what we did. So that's helpful. I'll pop a link so that you can get just a one-sheeter with the key points from this. Anything you want me to do another session on and go really into detail on, more than happy to. Anything from supplier negotiations to foreign currency, website management, developing, building, motivating teams. Anything, just shout. And I will speak to you all soon. Okay, bye.